Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Sporting Max. But today we are joined by former Eltham Wildcat. He played with them from juniors to seniors, and former Sydney King. He's played overseas in Latvia, Luke Cooper. Welcome to the podcast, Luke. It's amazing to have you on. How you going?
Hey, good, mate. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Now, Luke, I'd like to start off with sort of your childhood and what growing up was like for you.
Yeah, so I grew up in Eltham. So I'd played all my junior basketball for Eltham, from under 8s on Saturdays to Vic Champs on Friday nights, into ABA in 2000. It's a while ago. You're making me feel old. 2001 and 2002. So I started playing ABA when I was in year 11, which was 2011, and then played for 4 years before I went to college. So 2001 through to 2004. Yeah.
So what was it like for you sort of growing up? Your dad, Mel Cooper, was one of the most famous referees in the NBL in the 1990s. What was it like growing up with him as a father?
Yeah, it was good because we obviously had access to go to games and experience things at those games that other sort of children couldn't. But
yeah,
in terms of me playing and stuff, I copped a fair bit of stick from opposition players, and you only made this team because your dad's Hollywood and all that sort of stuff that, like, no one really liked him anyway, so why would I make a team because of him, sort of thing. So it was good in a sense. It had some challenges at times, but the positives definitely outweighed the negatives, definitely.
So how did you find your junior years, like you mentioned, at the Eltham Wildcats, and what was sort of your greatest skill or ability on the court?
So probably as it has been from juniors all the way through to seniors, I was never really, I was more at a junior level because you're sort of called upon more to be more of a scoring threat, but that just wasn't me. I was always a distributor and be able to find guys that could score the basketball, that could shoot and finish. So that was my main role. Nothing really changed. And I guess the hardest thing for me was, and I played a lot of AFL growing up too, so I got to an age where I was like under 17s in AFL and under 18s in basketball, where I had to make a decision. And I went with basketball. I probably would have never made anything of an AFL career anyway, so I probably made the right decision. But I think I was also fueled through my juniors of never making a state team. So 16 bottom age, tried out for top age, didn't make it. 16 top age, didn't make it. A's, like all the way through to under 20s when I didn't make the under 20 state team. So I was in under 18s. I was actually cut the same cut as Bogut, and then Bogut obviously went in a different direction, a different trajectory to me. But I think that sort of fueled me. And when you have those setbacks in terms of not making teams that you wanted to or thought you should have, you sort of got two options. Do you sulk and do you sort of look back and say, oh, I'm better than him, I thought I should have made it over him? Or do you sort of put your head down, tail up, and like make adjustments and make improvements so that next time that didn't happen? And I felt I did that. So then when it sort of knocked me down the next time I tried to make the team, sort of started to get to wear on me a little bit. But I sort of found some strength to just to stick with it, and I'm really thankful I did that because it ultimately ended up with me getting a college scholarship, which was really beneficial to my career.
Now, here you were a junior teammate of Aaron Bruce. What was he like as a junior?
Yeah, so we're still really good family friends. He came down, I think he started at Eltham in under 16, so his family used to come down from Horsham on a Friday afternoon. We used to play Friday nights, and then they used to stay Saturday, and then he used to play with us Saturday, and then they'd go home Sunday. And then after Aaron sort of went through our juniors, then Sean Bruce came down and he started playing for Eltham, and then obviously the family stayed with us on weekends that Shawnee was playing. But Aaron he was always just a gun junior. From under 16s, I was trying to make the Metro state teams, and he was always in the country state teams with. And I used to, every national championship, I used to miss out on making the team. I used to go watch Aaron play. And it was him and Reese Carter that used to run the country teams. And it used to be like Brad Robbins and basically just if a team was 10 players, it was 9 Dandenong players and like this random Blackburn player or something like that. But they always, Vic Metro always used to win. So I mean, I can all sit here and sulk about not making the team, but Vic Metro always put together a decent squads that very rarely lost at national championships. But Aaron he was a class above when it came to those national championships.
I know you broke your ankle line under 18s. What was this time sort of like for you, and how did you recover from the injury?
Yeah, I mean, the hardest thing for me was a week before we were supposed to go to schoolies, so I spent schoolies with my crutches. It was a time of year where there was actually not a lot of basketball going on, so it wasn't too bad. But as a kid at that age, yeah, and even now, like when you get injured, you do your ankle or something, you just take walking for granted. Such a simple thing that you take for granted. And a kid at that age where you just got so much energy and you just want to be playing, you want to be training, you have to sit on the sideline and watch your teammates play and know that you can't contribute in the way that you want to contribute. It's just hard. It's still hard now. Like, it doesn't matter what age you get to, when you're injured and you're a competitive beast, you just want to be out there contributing, helping your teammates. It's just frustrating. There's one word to sum it up. It's just frustrating.
So then, like you mentioned before, how did you get, I guess, that scholarship to go to college at the University of Alaska?
Yeah, so this is basically when Australians going over to college was in its infancy. Obviously, Gazy was at Seton Hall in 1920, but then the next big name to really go to college was Bogut, and he went to Utah in 2003. I think he spent 2 years there, and without the benefits of social media, it's hard to get your name over to college coaches, whereas now it's just, you put it on Twitter, you put it on Instagram, college coaches see it, they like it, they sign you, sort of thing. But back then it was just compiling video footage of yourself, spinning it onto DVDs. You know what DVDs are? Yeah, spinning it onto DVDs. And then I had a guy, Bruce Palmer, who he was coach when I tried out for Hunter Pirates when I was in year 12. Didn't make it, but he had a lot of contacts over in the States. So I just fed him my DVDs. He sent them out to coaches. And the process back then was, it's sort of a network over there. Whereas if one college coach didn't like it, they'd forward on to a next college. And hopefully it just ended up in the hands of someone who was looking for the player that I was. And that happened to be a coach in Alaska, and the rest is history.
So what was your sort of college experience like?
Yeah, I got really lucky my freshman year. And I think even looking at it now, there's such a fascination and obsession with kids that want to go Division 1. I don't know whether they just want to be able to tell my friends, yeah, I think finding a college it's so important to find the right fit. Yeah, to find a college where you have coaches and a program that wants you and wants to invest time in you to make you the best player that you can be. And I was lucky that, and college coaches even now, they'll tell you all this stuff and just to get you over to college, and then basically just chew you up and spit you out if you're not good enough. So I was lucky really in a sense that my freshman year I was able to play. And I find the only way to really gain a really successful college career is if you're playing minutes. You can do all the off-season workouts, you can do all the 6 a.m. Like, doesn't matter what you do. The only way to maximize your talent as a player over the course of 4 years is to be playing minutes on the court and get that experience. And I was lucky as a freshman. Our senior point guard got injured. I was really close to redshirting my freshman year. But our senior point guard got injured, so I sort of got thrown in the deep end 8 games in the season, ended up starting the rest of that season, and then started every game my sophomore, junior, and senior year. So I was lucky that it's sort of luck to start with, and then creating your own luck as you go, and then just sort of being a sponge and just learning from the upperclassmen, and then just taking that and dedicating time in your own game to making sure you're actually playing those minutes.
So what was college like, I guess, off the court?
Yeah, it's such a great experience. And I mean, it's not for everyone. It requires a certain toughness, not just physically, but mentally. It's hard to be away, especially at such a young age. You spend your first 18, 19 years living under your parents' roofs, and then bang, they sort of kick you out, and it's just you're across the other side of the world. This is back in the day where we didn't have FaceTime. We didn't couldn't just FaceTime your mum and dad when you're having a tough time. This was straight on the computer and emailing them, and obviously even calling them's hard back then. So I loved it. Like, I thought it was such a fantastic experience. It had its downs, definitely. I got really homesick my freshman year, and there was times that I wanted to come home. But that's going back to what I said before, finding the right fit that really cares about you as a person and nurturing you through those tough times. I had that, and I had that off the court. And obviously being an Australian and playing basketball has its perks over there. And at times distractions. So it's really hard to focus on, your school and your basketball as your priority, but also finding time to enjoy the whole college experience at the same time.
Now, you were nominated for the Bob Cousy Award. For those who don't know, what is this award, and what did it mean to you at that time?
Yeah, so that's a pretty special, probably my most special accomplishment at college. So it's an award for I think it was 8 or 9 top college point guards in the States in 2004, so 2008. And it's usually just Division 1, but I was the only Division 2 player to be nominated for the award.
Wow.
So and it's just basically just voted by votes, so whoever has the most votes won. So I just narrowly lost to Derrick Rose. But it was a cool way to get recognized, I guess. And so definitely out of my league in terms of there was Ty Lawson, there was just a bunch of other guys that had distinguished NBA careers. But just the recognition was pretty cool.
And you had the most assists in Alaska Anchorage history, and I think captain to the school. Is that right? And what was it like to, be recognised, Australia coming over to America, taking on all these sort of top kid and teen prodigies who are going to the NBA, like you mentioned, Derrick Rose?
Yeah, I guess when you hang your hat on one thing when you're a player, and mine was just being unselfish and trying to make my teammates better. And then my senior year, I led the nation in assists, but more importantly for me, I was second in assist to turnover ratio, which was like, as soon as the game's finished, the first thing I looked at every single game was how many turnovers I had. Okay, number one, because my college coaches were on me all the time about taking care and valuing the basketball.
Yeah. So
being able to look back on that, my senior year, leading the nation assist, but more importantly, having a really good assist to turnover ratio. I think it was like 3.98 to 1 turnover. That was probably the most important part for me. And then just being able, my senior year, lead us to the Final Four, which we ended up playing against someone who's previously been on your show, Ben Madgen.
Yeah.
So he was like the third leading scorer in the nation. So my job was to shut him down in the Final Four. I think he was averaging 24 points a game. I kept him to 4 points. So I've not let him forget about that the whole time we're at the Kings, but they beat us, so he has the edge over me.
What was it like to then represent Australia at the University Games?
Yeah, that was pretty special too. So we went to Thailand, and this was sort of before the University Games. Now, if it was like it was now, back then, I definitely would have made the team. So now it's just like they pick the absolute. Basically, it's a project sort of teams now. Back then, it was just sort of the best college players that were either seniors or juniors, essentially. But just special nonetheless. Anytime you get the chance to represent your country, it's something that definitely I cherished, and something that I look back on. I still have, the signed singlet of all the guys that played on the team. That's something that, any sport, any athlete aspires to play for their country, and having the opportunity to do that was something that was really special for me.
Well, you then played overseas in Latvia. Can you talk to us a little bit about how you adjust to playing overseas in a foreign country where languages might necessarily get confused?
Yeah, and I think it started when I was in year 11 and year 12, when I was playing ABA and playing against those bigger bodies and physical men, and then 2 more years before I went to college. So I essentially had 4 years of playing against grown men before I went to college. And I think that even helped when I graduated from college and went and played against actual pros, because I was essentially doing that before I went to college. And the language barrier was really hard. The transition in terms of Latvia is a very similar weather and climate to Alaska. Very dark, very cold. And I think if I hadn't experienced that in Alaska, it would have been a real culture shock. But having been through that in Alaska, I was able to transition to it relatively easily. As you said, the thing that I found the hardest to deal with was definitely the language barrier. Obviously, at that time, 2010, I think it was, English was becoming the universal language. So majority of the younger guys on the team spoke English, a basic English, but a one that was able to, I was able to understand. But our coach was 50, he didn't speak English. So essentially when it got to timeouts, it was him speaking Latvian, me sitting at the end of the bench. And then if there was something that I needed to know, the assistant coach spoke some sort of English and he'd just tell me. So it was hard. But I mean, once you're in the flow of the game, I mean, you've got signals with your hand signals and it's very easy. It's the barrier of pre-game, post-game, going out to restaurants and supermarkets that I found a little bit more difficult. There was definitely just a couple of and just nodding your head and pretending you agree and understood when deep down you had no idea what they were saying.
So what was it like on court in Latvia with sort of wins and going on the road and trying to play your best basketball?
Yeah, so I started my career at Latvia really badly. I was probably averaging 10, 12 minutes a game, and it's cutthroat over there. So that I went home. So the season ran from, I think it was August through to December, and then we had a break, and I went home for a week at Christmas, and I was secretly hoping that they were going to cut me so I didn't have to go back. But if they did that, they would have had to pay me out my contract. So I ended up coming back just before New Year, and I was put through the next 2 weeks. And I think this was specifically targeted to make me quit. So they didn't have to pay me out. They put me through trainings. I was running extra lines. I was doing all this extra stuff that other guys weren't doing at trainings. In the gym, they were making me do all these exercises, and then they were trying to test me out and push me physically so that I would quit and then they wouldn't have to pay me out. But I stuck through it, and I knew what they were doing. So I just sort of said, stuff you, I'm going to stick this out. I'm going to be sort of tough it out a little bit. And then our point guard ended up getting injured. And then the second half of that season, I ended up averaging sort of 12, 14 points a game and playing really well the second half of the season. So sort of just a lesson to, times aren't, especially as a professional athlete, more times than not, you're going to have really challenging, tough times, and it's how you respond to those. And that's life in general, isn't it, really? That, it's never going to be rosy. You're always going to have challenges. There's times that push you mentally and physically. And you've got to attack it with the right mindset. And I did that, and I sort of got rewarded in a sense.
So you then played for the Sydney Kings in the 2010-2011 season. Why did you decide to sort of come home and play for the Sydney Kings?
Yeah, so I came home from Latvia and I played a year at Seabull. I lived with mum and dad in Melbourne. I played a year at Seabull for Kilsyth. And then I actually met a girl who lived up in Sydney. So it was just a chance meeting and ended up moving up to Sydney. And that's when Sydney was brought back into the NBL. And then having my college career and then those few years in Latvia, ended up signing. Bob Turner was the GM, and he ended up coming. I played for Manly, ABA up here, and he ended up coming to a couple of games for Manly. So, and then it was just a process after that. And then started my first 5 games for the Kings and played pretty well. And then had a game in Adelaide where I broke my foot and then missed the rest of the season, missed the rest of my first season, and then came back for a second year. So, yeah, just challenging times, but was able to pull through.
Like you mentioned before, playing alongside Ben Madgen at the Sydney Kings, what was it like to play alongside him?
Yeah, he's I played 2 years at the Kings and that was it. And I think I probably could have got a little bit more out of myself in terms of a few more years if I had the work ethic and the dedication that he has, he's probably the hardest worker that I've ever played with. He's always there, you know, an hour before training starts. He's always getting shots up after training. We used to get, my first and second year, we got a ball each. Everyone got a basketball. And like after the first year, his basketball was just, you couldn't even read the ball on it. Like he just, the time that he dedicated to his game, there's no coincidence for a man that moves as slow as he does to be able to exhaust the NBL career that he did. Right, was purely through his work ethic and the amount of time that he dedicated outside of games itself.
I mean, that sort of mentality and mindset and work ethic, I guess, runs in the family. I mean, I was watching Women with Drive, I think it was on C31, Channel 44 last night, and they were talking about, because it was Melbourne Boomers and Michelle Timsey was on there, and she was talking about Tess Madgen and her whole sort of work ethic. And, you know, if there's not a great energy at training, she's going to go, I'm not letting training just go down the kitchen sink, you know. And I think they said she called Ezzy McGregor out for a flop at training yesterday morning. Yeah.
And what a reward for effort that she got, being able to make the Opal squad last year. Like, that's no coincidence. That's a tireless effort. And that's like, hearing that story in terms of calling people out and holding people accountable. It's one thing to be talented and make the team through talent, but like, she's obviously a natural born leader, and obviously that talent does run in the family with Madge, his sister Jack playing for Collingwood. And that work ethic that they have. And funny you say that, I was watching Golden State play yesterday, and they spoke about after every home game, Steph goes and lifts weights and does cardio for half an hour before he goes and does his meter, and everyone sees what he does on the court, but what he does on the court is a result of his work off the court. And I mean, you can't produce what he produces without being an elite athlete and being as fit as he is. And it's the same in anything. You get, and it's the cliche, but you get out what you put in, and it's so relevant to basketball, and what you see on the court is what you see as a result of what you do off the court.
Throughout your first season at the Kings, you averaged 13 points. How did you sort of find your first season at the Kings, where sometimes you get more game time than other games?
Yeah, and it was an adjustment going from Latvia to coming back to Australia, and I love those first 5 games that I played before I broke my foot. Was the most fun I reckon I've ever had playing basketball. We had a really good culture those first, because we were all in the same position. This was the first year back. Some guys have Graham down because they'd all played NBL before. So we had those veterans, then we had the imports, and then we had the guys that are coming out of college or that had played ABA, that we were just sort of all put together, but we're in it for the same reason. First year back as a club. So it was a lot of fun. And then obviously being the point guard and leading the team through those first 5 games was enjoyable. Obviously it was cut short, but yeah, it was, that was a really fun first 5 games of essentially my professional career.
I heard you came up against Paddy Mills in one of his first games with the Tigers. Can you talk to me about this game?
Yeah, so we actually played him in the pre-season in a game at Kilsyth first, and then we played him down there. And there's probably 3 guys that I've found the most challenging to defend, and the guys that I found hard to defend were guys who were just as lethal shooters as they were taking the ball off to the hoop. Obviously, if you've just got a guy who's just aggressive but can't really shoot, you can be a little bit further off and just have the ability to contain him. But Paddy's obviously a dual threat. Like he's easily the hardest guy to defend. Not just when he has the ball, he does so much work off the ball that there's just zero chance to rest. Yeah, you get continually put through screens off the ball, on ball screens. He's just an absolute handful to defend. And yeah, I mean, there's no coincidence in the position he's in today. But him, Jamar Wilson, who played for Cairns, and Cedric Jackson, who played for New Zealand, easily the 3 hardest guys, but Paddy's in a league of his own.
So what was it like to play against Paddy Mills and then see the career that he's gone on to have?
Yeah, so he came back because I think there was something going on with the NBA season, his contract, and yeah, we're hearing the news that he was coming back. It wasn't good news for me. It wasn't good news for other point guards in the league. And I mean, fantastic for the league that he came back and played that season. Yeah, and that was sort of the year. That was probably the year him coming back was sort of the start of guys in Europe, you know, the David Andersons and Yuleys, of guys that had distinguished careers overseas, even though Paddy went back to the NBA, that started to come back. And I think that's what's made the league as good as it is today. You know, the not just the imports that we have here, but like the gun Australians who have had distinguished careers in the Europe and over in the NBA coming back was the foundation of building the league to where it is today. And like, I would hate playing in the league today. It's just the talent in the league today compared to when I was playing is just on a whole nother level.
So how did your time in the league come to an end?
Yeah, so it's, as I said before, I probably could have got a couple more years out. I didn't. I'm one of the ones that didn't dedicate enough time outside of the game to myself. I was never a good shooter. I was never an elite shooter. So I could probably, if I had that outside threat of being able to knock down threes, and I actually got it once I stopped playing NBL and I was playing for Manly and ABA up here. I felt like I was a better player than when I was playing NBL, just because, you know, guards had to respect you. And I obviously naturally had an ability to find guys. I reckon that was the reason why I didn't get another contract. And it's a good lesson for me to be able to convey to kids that I coach now that, hey, I can tell you to do this stuff, but that wasn't me. And I'm telling you because through sheer experience that if you don't put in the work, if you don't, you know, you want to get to a level. Everyone wants to be a great player, but not everyone wants to dedicate the time and the effort that it takes to get there. And the ones that do get there, and the ones that don't, you know, they just have that mediocre career. And I felt besides my college career in Europe, I felt like I didn't really maximize my potential in the NBL, which is fine. I got what I deserved. Yeah. But I feel like I could have got a few more years out of me if I had the right mindset in terms of improvement.
So what are you up to now post career?
Yeah, so I'm live up here in Sydney on the Northern Beaches, and I'm just coach. Yeah, I'm head of basketball at Mossman High. I run a basketball academy at another school on the Northern Beaches, and then I'm just junior coordinator at Scotch College and just coach at Manly. So I'm really invested in kids and like making them better and maximizing. I knew when I went to college that post career, whenever that would be, that my passion once it was done would be coaching. I love the X's and O's of it. I love dissecting games, watching any games, Europe, NBL, NBA, watching what teams run, watching what coaches do defensively in terms of trying to change momentum of games. I'm really just I'm a student of the game, and I love that side of it. So I've been fortunate enough to have a job up here that helps fill that love for the game that I have.
So how did you find adjusting after you played basketball to the coaching side of the sport?
Yeah, so it was a little bit easier for me because I still had that competitive fix in terms of playing ABA, and I'd still be playing. Like I'll keep playing till however long. I'll slow down, and I can't shoot still, but I'll still be able to find guys, and I'll still run up and down for fitness. But that transition from post-career was made easier through playing ABA. It wasn't at a higher level. It was a lot more relaxed and more enjoyable because it's not as cutthroat and there's not as much pressure, and you don't have to dedicate as much time with it. And I was able to transition to coaching, which is now my post-career, through playing. So it was sort of made a little bit easier through still feeling that, you know, the competitive juices that I have. And even coaching, I still have that. I want to get out and I want to play even when I coach. I still have that drive to you know, the competitive drive that you just have it or you don't. I have it when I coach and I have it when I play, and I have trouble switching off sometimes.
What would be, or what is your best advice to anyone who wants to be a professional basketballer and make the NBL and play overseas and be successful like yourself?
Yeah, I think it's just something that that I've spoken about the whole time. It's you have to have a real, number one, you have to find something you're passionate in, whatever that is. Yeah, every businessman, whatever it is, whatever field you choose, the best in that field, dedicate the most time to it, dedicate the most time to improvement in that. And they get to the top through a mindset, through having the right mindset, and then just dedicating time to whatever it is to make you the best in that field. It's the same with basketball. You need to identify deficiencies in your game, and you need to work on those. And the more deficiencies and areas that you identify, the more improvement you can pour into it, the better the player you're going to be. And there's the best players you see in the NBA and the NBL, they're not just the best players just because, they're athletic, or that they're the ones. The best players dedicate the most time to making themselves assure themselves that they get to that position. And that would be the advice that I give. It's so cliche, but you put the work in, and you'll see the rewards if you dedicate the time to get to where you want to be.
Thanks, Luke, for coming on the podcast today and putting aside, I guess, 40 minutes or so of your time to come and have a chat. It's been an absolute honor to have you on.
All good, man. Appreciate your time. Thanks, buddy.
Thanks, Luke. Stay tuned, everyone, for more Sporting Max.